Have you ever driven past a water tower and just not really thought anything of it? I mean, they're everywhere, right? These silent giants just hanging out on our skylines. But it turns out these things you see every day are hiding some seriously clever physics. So today we're going to dive in and uncover the genius that's been hiding in plain sight. And hey, it's not just me geeking out about this. When an astrophysicist like Neil deGrasse Tyson says something as simple as a water tower is fascinating, you just know there's a great story there. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first things first, let's make sure we're all picturing the same thing here. Because when I say water tower, what pops into your head probably depends a lot on where you live. There are really two main kinds we see all the time. And this is a really important distinction. If you're in a big city like New York, you might be thinking of those classic wooden tanks perched on a rooftop, and those just serve that one building. But for most of us, it's that single, huge tower that kind of stands guard over the entire town. And you have to admit, they can look a little otherworldly. I mean, if you catch one silhouetted against a sunset, it's not hard to see why they might spark the imagination. They can look less like a piece of city plumbing and more like something that just touched down from another planet. And get this, there's an incredible true story that proves this point. When Orson Welles' famous War of the Worlds radio drama aired back in 1938, it caused a nationwide panic. So what did some of these terrified listeners do? They ran outside and started shooting at their local water towers because they were convinced they were the invading Martian war machines from the radio. A true story. But beyond their whole sci-fi vibe, the real genius is how they work, especially when things go wrong. Their whole purpose is to give us reliable water pressure, and they do it with a system that is just beautifully simple. Okay, so check this out. It's brilliant. You need electricity to pump all that water up into the tank, sure. But, and this is the key, you don't need any power to get the water down. So if there's a blackout, yeah, the pumps stop, but gravity just takes over. That massive tank of water becomes the ultimate failsafe, making sure water keeps flowing right to your tap. It's the perfect low-tech backup plan. Okay, but this brings up a pretty obvious question, right? If you've already got electric pumps to get the water up there, why even bother with the tower? Why not just skip that whole middle step? Exactly. It seems way more direct, doesn't it? Why build this gigantic, expensive structure just to hold water that you had to pump up in the first place? Well, the answer to that question reveals the real elegance behind the whole design. It all comes down to one problem: peak demand. Just think about your town at, say, 7:30 in the morning. Everybody's getting ready for work, for school, and everyone wants to hop in the shower at the exact same time. A system that pumped directly to homes would need absolutely massive pumps to handle that morning surge, and then those pumps would just sit around doing nothing for most of the day. The tower solves this perfectly. It's a buffer. It's a reservoir. You can use smaller, more efficient pumps to slowly fill that tank all day and all night. Then, when that morning rush hits, boom, the tower has more than enough water ready to go for everybody instantly. But the genius doesn't stop there. Let's zoom in on a detail you've definitely seen, but maybe never really thought about. Those metal hoops wrapped around the wooden tanks. They are not just there for decoration. They're basically a masterclass in applied physics. So here's the deal. It all comes down to a concept called hydrostatic pressure. In the simplest terms, the water at the bottom of the tank has to hold up the weight of all the water above it. What that means is the pressure isn't the same all the way through the tank. It gets way, way stronger the deeper you go. Let's just imagine this for a second. Think about the force that's pushing outwards on the walls of the tank. Up near the top, there's not much water overhead, so the pressure is pretty low. Let's just call it, 500 pounds of force. But then you move down to the middle of the tank. Now that section of water has to support the entire top third of the tank on top of it, so the force pushing outwards basically doubles, right? It jumps up to 1,000 pounds. And by the time you get to the very bottom, that little section of the wall has to contain the weight of the entire column of water. The pressure down there is just immense. It's now tripled to 1,500 pounds of force, all trying to burst the tank wide open. So how in the world do you build a tank that can handle that kind of increasing force? That's where those hoops come in. To fight back against that massive pressure at the base, the steel hoops have to be packed much, much closer together. And at the top, where the pressure is weak, they can be spaced farther apart. Seriously, next time you see one, look for it. You'll see it right away.
And this brings us to a fantastic and honestly a kind of terrifying piece of advice from Neil deGrasse Tyson himself. He says if you ever see a water tower where the hoops are all spaced out equally from top to bottom, it means the person who built it had no idea what they were doing, and, as he puts it, you should probably not move into that building.
But what's really incredible is that this core idea, just using gravity to move water where you want it to go, is not a modern invention at all. Nope. Engineers figured this out thousands of years ago. Here's a cool little factoid for you. In Manhattan, if a building is less than 6 stories tall, it doesn't need a water tower. Why? Because the city's main water reservoirs, which are way upstate in the mountains, are at such a high elevation that gravity alone is strong enough to push water all the way up to the 6th floor of any building in the city. And that is the exact same principle the ancient Romans used for their aqueducts. Those things were just marvels of engineering. They were designed to create this super gentle, continuous slope from a high-up lake or river all the way down to the city of Rome. The water just flowed by itself, no pumps needed. The New York City system is really just a gigantic, modern version of a Roman aqueduct. And you gotta admit that Roman engineering was built to last. As Tyson likes to joke, if your buildings are still standing 2,000 years after your civilization is gone, you might have overdone it a little bit. You, in a word, overbuilt. So, the next time you glance up at a water tower, maybe you'll see it a little differently. Not just as a big tank on stilts, but as this really elegant solution to peak demand, a living physics lesson in hydrostatic pressure, and a direct link to the genius of the ancient world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets are hiding in plain sight all around us?